Welcome to Panels and Borders. I'm Dominic. A great character can be defined by many things in a story. It can be how relatable that character is to its audience. It can be by what struggles that character can overcome. However, one way that adds to a great character, in my opinion, is a great death scene. There are many great death scenes in the world of fiction. And as Captain Kirk once said, how we deal with a death is at least as important as how we deal with life, wouldn't you say? With that, here are my top 5 heroic deaths in fiction. Number 5. The death of Obi-Wan Kenobi. Obi-Wan Kenobi, Jedi Master and hero of the Clone Wars, who went into hiding after he was betrayed by his apprentice and friend Anakin Skywalker. After the two engaged in a fierce lightsaber duel on the lava planet of Mustafar, Obi-Wan had left Anakin, who at that point had turned over to the dark side of the Force, for dead at the edge of a lava river. Then going into hiding on the planet Tatooine and taking the alias of Ben Kenobi, where he had left Luke in the care of his aunt and uncle. Years later, Obi-Wan Kenobi would confront Darth Vader again aboard the newly constructed Death Star. Obi-Wan squared off against Vader in a final lightsaber battle between the two. They fought, and then Obi-Wan let Vader destroy him, as a way to cause a distraction to let Luke, Han, Leia, Chewie, and the droids escape the Death Star. As Vader slashed through Obi-Wan, he instantly vanished, leaving behind only an empty robe. Obi-Wan had become one with the Force, and was able to help Luke from beyond the grave. Obi-Wan Kenobi was the ultimate old wizard, wise father figure. He was the first mentor master for a young Luke Skywalker. Even after his death at the hands of Vader, Obi-Wan became one with the Force, and continued to guide Luke as a Force ghost. When I was a kid watching Star Wars, I found the idea of Obi-Wan Kenobi's death and his return as a Force ghost a fascinating one. It was a great way for an old Jedi to go out, protecting the future of the Jedi Order, while still being able to help as a disembodied spirit. Number 4. The death of Superman. A strange creature punches its way out of a mysterious metallic cell buried deep in the earth. When it is free, it begins to go on a path of total destruction. After defeating the Justice League with relative ease, Superman flies in to help the League against this seemingly unstoppable threat. That threat is Doomsday, a monster that is an engine of total destruction. Doomsday is wrecking a path of havoc and heading straight towards Metropolis. Superman is in the fight of his life to stop him, never having fought something this strong before. The battle rages into the city of Metropolis, and Superman realizes this is his last stand. With one final titanic showdown, Superman defeats the monster Doomsday, but the price is his own life, as he dies in the arms of Lois Lane. Superman is one of the greatest, if not the greatest, comic book characters. I became a Superman fan not through his comics, but the Chris Reeve Superman films that played frequently on TV when I was growing up. Superman was all-powerful and the one guy that couldn't be beat. He was the line in the sand that could never be crossed by the villain. Superman was the guy that would always win and would always come out on top. Then, in 1991, the unbelievable happened. Superman was killed off, and it was something that wasn't kryptonite. It was at the hands of the powerful creature known as Doomsday, that had so much raw power, even the last son of Krypton could not withstand it. It put a shock and surprise through this young comic reader, and it was one of the biggest events in comic books back in the 1990s. Even at the time, I knew they would bring Superman back, and they did, with the equally awesome storyline, Reign of the Supermen. Number 3. The death of Optimus Prime. Optimus Prime was one of the greatest leaders of the Autobots. He was as wise as he was tall, and gentle as he was powerful. In the year 2005, the Autobots had lost control of Cybertron to the Decepticons, and retreated to several of Cybertron's moons, and to their stronghold of Autobot City on Earth. The Autobots planned to launch a full-scale assault on the Decepticons to retake their home planet of Cybertron. However, they did not have enough energon for the attack. Optimus Prime sent Ironhide, along with several other Autobots, to Autobot City on Earth to retrieve the required power. The Decepticons, having learned of the Autobots' plan, hijacked the shuttle to Earth to launch a surprise attack. The attack had devastated Autobot City, and the Autobots were crippled, until Prime had arrived with reinforcements, and then turned the tide of the battle against the Decepticons. This leads to a one-on-one showdown between Optimus Prime and Megatron. The two battle it out in an epic fight, the likes of which has never been seen before or since in Transformers lore. Optimus won the battle, and the Decepticons were forced to retreat. However, it was not without a grave cost. With those iconic last words, "Until that day, until all are one," Optimus Prime died before my 10-year-old eyes. Death was a foreign thing that was rarely seen in Saturday morning cartoons. So, when I seen all those Autobots bite the dust and Prime die, the Transformers film had really brought it up a notch. The battle at Autobot City and the Optimus Prime Megatron battle, combined with Optimus' death, is the highest note the movie hits. It was real. It was epic. And Prime died a real hero. This moment is what made this movie for me. It lit my imagination on fire and burned itself into my brain forever. Number 2. The Death of Anakin. He was the ultimate sci-fi villain, all clad in black armor, and his identity hid behind the black death mask of a helmet. When Darth Vader showed up on screen, you knew things were about to get serious. When I was growing up, there were a handful of villains that truly stood the test of time, and truly stood out. One of them, without a doubt, was Darth Vader. Anakin Skywalker, ace pilot and Jedi Knight who fought alongside Obi-Wan in the Clone Wars, until he was seduced by the dark side and betrayed the Jedi. He ceased to be Anakin Skywalker and became Darth Vader, Dark Lord of the Sith. After Luke Skywalker surrendered to the Imperial forces on the forest moon of Endor, he was taken to the Emperor on board the second Death Star by Darth Vader. Once there, the Emperor tried to seduce Luke to the dark side. Luke then engaged in a vicious lightsaber battle with Darth Vader. Luke tapped into the dark side and came to the edge, almost killing Vader. However, he turned back from the darkness. The Emperor, realizing Luke would not be turned, decided to destroy him with Force Lightning. As Luke was slowly being killed by Force Lightning, Darth Vader turned back to the light side once more and turned on the Emperor, throwing him down a reactor shaft. Darth Vader had turned away from the dark side and once again became Anakin Skywalker. As Anakin lay dying from his wounds, his last request is that Luke remove his helmet, so that he may see him with his own eyes, with a smile on his face at the sight of his son, and his final words to him, "Tell your sister you were right about me." What a moment in pop culture. An iconic moment that can never be repeated again. I rewatched this film countless times throughout my life, and this moment will always be unforgettable. As a child, this is what made Darth Vader so fascinating to me. What appeared to be a 2D black hat villain was a complex and tragic character. Number 1. The Death of Spock. One of Star Trek's greatest characters, and also one of science fiction's greatest characters, is the legendary Mr. Spock. In the year 2285, Spock was in command of the USS Enterprise, while it was being used to train cadets. During this time, Admiral James T. Kirk came aboard for an inspection. The Enterprise received a transmission from Carol Marcus, Kirk's former lover, who was developing a terraforming device known as Genesis. In the garbled transmission, Carol asked Kirk why Starfleet was taking over the Genesis project, and then asked for Kirk's help just before the transmission was jammed at the source. When the Enterprise went in to investigate, they were lured into an elaborate trap set by the genetically enhanced human known as Khan. The battle with Khan had left his stolen Federation ship, the Reliant, disabled and floating dead in space. The Enterprise itself was crippled, with its warp drive out of commission. In a last-ditch effort to destroy Kirk along with himself, Khan activated the Genesis device and set it to detonate. With engineering badly damaged and Scotty taken out by radiation, no one could fix the offline warp drive. Spock left the bridge for engineering, and when there he entered the radiated chamber to put the mains back online, which allowed the Enterprise to escape the Genesis blast. The result, however, cost Spock his life, as he was exposed to a lethal dose of radiation. Star Trek was one of the first science fiction shows I watched as a kid. Star Trek was always there. I don't remember a time when there was no Star Trek. I grew up with this show. I watched the show on a weekly and daily basis. The characters of Kirk, Spock, Bones, Scotty, Chekhov, Sulu, and Nurse Chapel became familiar faces and felt like a second family. A weekly show can get you attached to characters in a way I don't think a movie can, in my opinion. That is why Spock's death was one that really impacted me as a kid. It felt like a real friend had died. Spock saved the crew of the Enterprise by giving up his own life. And that's why his death is number 1 on this list. And those are my top 5 heroic deaths in fiction. What are your top 5 heroic deaths in fiction? Let me know in the comments, and I will see you at the next one. Thank you to all of my subscribers, and thank you for watching this video. And if you're new to the channel, like, subscribe, and share. And don't forget to hit the bell icon for notification when new videos are uploaded.